Hey everybody, here with Power Man and Iron Fist. Going to be sharing this over to the page so everybody can see it, and we'll get started. And there we go. Okay, cool. So, I thought I'd do a combo card. I know I already did in this series a card of Iron Fist, but I wanted to do something a little different and bring this on in a different way because I've been getting asked to do more comic or panel style and more action oriented cards rather than just poses. So I was like, okay, no problem, we can do that. So this is kind of the direction it's going in. You guys saw that I did the Hulk and Pit the other day, and that's pretty much the same direction I'm going here. You know, this is a little more of the iconic pose going on, especially for Iron Fist, and it's a modern version with the striped jumper rather than the old collared suit. So, I mean, he's got a little collar right here, but that's all he's got. He's got that little fin collar that goes down and around. And then he's got the top knot cover, the do-rag style. So, got this going on right here. This is a fun one. I'm not really into these this version because I was raised with the classic head, fro and headband, and the mask is the same on this one. The bandana type mask is the same on this one for Iron Fist, but it's not. It's pretty much not the same thing anymore as it was for me when I was a kid. Because I remember these characters just being above and beyond the rest of Marvel, even within their own universe. They were always a special. I don't know how to put it. They were a bar above the rest. It was an elevated character dynamic, even for back then. And all through the 80s, I remember them being a massive, massive group of characters, especially for the Hero for Hire stuff and the Power Man Iron Fist duo series. When they teamed up, that was just it for me. I loved it. But I was a old school 70s movies guy. When I was a kid, I liked, Shaft and all the street movies, and then you had the cool stuff like the Bruce Lee kung fu movies, and the old 60s and 70s style Japanese adventure movies and stuff, and it was just funny. I mean, you had the old Jackie Chan films as well out there from China, so that was always cool. But the Bruce Lee films were always my favorite. I think they were for everybody. But those old martial arts films and those old, black films from, like Foxy Brown and Shaft and all that, those films used to just really resonate with me because I loved anything that was diverse. Let's put it that way. I liked anything that was really diverse, and it made me think. I love pop culture, big time, and I'm one of the few people that still remembers the original '70s Spider-Man movies that they had for television. They had them as a series. It was supposed to be a television series, but they did them every other week as a 2-hour movie, and it was supposed to be a series going on, but it never was never played out every week like it was supposed to. It was more like TV movies rather than the series, and they used to put them together and play them. It was strange the way they played that out, but I guess that's the way it was for Marvel. So that's what they wanted to do with it. However, that is one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man. Was that incarnation, because the TV version from those movies and stuff was the most reminiscent of the actual cartoon and comic. So, and it was a grown-up, mature Peter Parker rather than just the kid running around. It was the 20-something news reporter Peter Parker, which I really liked. And we didn't see him in the comics like that until it came along when Todd McFarlane revamped the series, which I found that fascinating too, because of the fact that every time Peter was in the comics, he was always still, that college kid, the goofy college kid, or the news reporter trying to find his way in the world, but not resonating the way he should in society. So I just found it really cool to see him play out that way on screen, where he didn't any other way. Now, the reason I'm doing these fingers like this is because I'm going to outline them and black them in to where we have the Iron Fist kind of look. I know that's going to look awkward at first because it's going to look like that finger's jacked. No, trust me, it'll work. It'll work. It'll work. Excuse me. But, yeah, I've been doing a lot of work on trying to get an original look for this. And when I was laying it out, I wanted to do the glowing fist rather than having all that mess go on, because I didn't want to try to draw just a hand and make it look normal. I wanted to do something really cool and kind of freak people out a little bit. Which, where's the fun in going normal? You know what I mean? So, which you may not. That's okay too. But, yeah, I just wanted to do something a little different and a little more diverse, So if you think that hand looks jacked up right now, it's not going to look that bad here in a minute. Because it's going to look more lit and energetic. So it'll look better, it'll look better. So, anyway, I don't know where that came from. So I've been in a very light mood today. Very easygoing. Now, like I said, this is the jumpsuit style, so I'm going to kind of cut these in a little bit. And go right to the arm there where it's exposed. Go down here. Put in that silly little muscle that people draw. Only in comics is it that developed, because that little muscle right there in between the bicep and the tricep, it doesn't it lays underneath, okay? It doesn't go out and extrude unless you're really lean and cut. It doesn't show up as much, okay? So when you're drawing your comics, don't go drawing all that muscle and get all crazy with it, because it's not supposed to show like a lot of people show it. I mean, there are guys that'll cut it in and it'll be crazy. It'll be just like standing out like a second bicep. It looks weird. But it's supposed to be in between these muscles, because this is one of the tension binding muscles, one of the smaller muscles that's really, really tight and mostly tendon underneath there to help hold like when you lift your arm kind of thing. That's what puts tension on your elbow to lift. So there's another muscle underneath, in between. When you raise the arm, it's that little tag in between the bicep and the tricep underneath. Same thing. It's that's the muscles that lift and connect up into the muscle in the neck here and lift up the arm. So when you're drawing, pay attention to that. Don't overdevelop that, because then it looks weird. A lot of people do that and it just looks wrong. Don't do it. So anyway, I cover that really heavy in the I give it a good solid 2-3 minutes of arm discussion and how that works up into the neck to lift your arm up to the side, and all that in the art course that I'm putting out this month. Yeah, plug. So if you guys are interested, check that out when I post it here in the next couple of days, because I'm finishing recording part of that today. Matter of fact, I got to do the intros and stuff on it. So post-production, and we're having a good call with that one. So if you guys are interested, awesome. Get to hang out a little bit and draw some comics. But if not, that's cool too. No pressure. I'm not trying to solicit, so just letting you know it's out there, because people have been asking me. So I'm very pleased with it. Very happy. Now, I know under normal circumstances, his mask doesn't have that nose ridge, that Batman kind of ridge, but I'm giving it that ridge because I want it to pop out. And I like the structure of it. If he needs a little more structure to his mask, and I think that little bit of structure just gives it a whole new dimension and scale. Not to mention the fact that it looks like it's smart because it protects his nose a little bit if it's boxed. If there's a little ridging in there, it might protect his face, especially as of late, since Iron Fist in the comics is getting clobbered all the time, especially in this series, the new one, where they kind of retrograded it, and they make them go back and forth in time, which is a little strange. Sometimes it's this Iron Fist and this Luke Cage, and sometimes it's the classic 70s style Iron Band wearing fro-headed kind of old school throwback, and the old finned hood throwback as well of both of them. And it's a little strange what they're doing at Marvel right now in that regard. I mean, I'm not bashing anybody by any means, but it's just hard to follow with which generation that they're doing, because now they've got that Legends line, and they're starting to do retrograde stories of each one in old school Disney style, animation style comics, like they used to do their comics back in the 50s, and when they had comics coming out, and it's just crazy. I don't know the pattern of what they're doing yet. I don't know what the plan is. I know it's not a modern Marvel, and I know it's not something they're really pushing. I mean, I don't know if they're trying to get something to really click before they call it quits, or they're just doing something different to, keep people busy or whatever. But it's just strange. It doesn't match up like it should. So I find it awkward. But, and like I said, I'm not bashing them or anything. I just find it strange. So it's hard to follow what they're doing over there. And maybe that's the way they want it. I don't know. Maybe that's the way they're going after it. Who knows? We'll see. Okay. I'm trying not to. This one's very polished and very clean, and I'm trying not to. This character, that is very clean, and I'm trying not to overwork him. Because he's very clean in design and very clean in appearance, and I want to keep him that way. I'm not a big fan of the heavy beard, but if you're going to put him in, in facial hair, then go for it. Because it doesn't even gap. It just grows right up. right up to the face there, which I found was a little heavy. Because most of the time when they have him in a beard, they have it really groomed, you know, and fine lined. But not now. It's kind of grown wild. Beard's going wild. So, as we cut this along here, I'm keeping this one kind of sketchy too. I want to keep it a little more relaxed. So, that's the reason for the cartoonier look. But it'll still come out the way it's supposed to. And I held off just a little bit today for the, I was going to go for the 10 o'clock hour, but I decided to wait till noon to keep it a little easier. Some people said it was too early. It's too early. We go, okay. You don't have to whine about it. It's all right. Gotta give Luke Cage these big Hulk hands. You ever notice that? The dude's got huge hands. Just massive, massive hands. And yes, I know he's a big guy, but still. Some guys have little feet. He's got big hands. What can I say? It's just crazy. Now, when I'm doing this type of panel work, I like to get this in really quick. And I like to get it in nice and heavy on this kind of thing. And just block it out and go. Normally, I don't like to do that on hands, but in these sketch cards, I'm finding it a lot more dynamic and pleasurable for the end result. Because being so cartoony, it's a little bit hectic in that regard. The images are a little more sketchy and raw, so it's not as ready to go as I would like it to be. He's got his arm tipped up here, where we normally wouldn't see that part, the way he's got his hand tipped. It's almost like a martial arts pose where he's holding his hand and tipping it down, so you see the back part of his fist and his wrist underneath there. Which I crossed it between, for him, I crossed it like a cross between a boxer and a martial artist. Because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but in the comics, these guys work together and they've been training together so that Luke Cage could get more of a controlled fighting style rather than just rampaging through. And it also, by him working with Danny Rand, it also calms Danny down for the Iron Fist rage. So it makes him focus more on relaxing and being more social in combat, more empathetic to the challenge rather than just tactically raw. Because this dude he fights like Batman. I mean, he goes in and he just crushes his opponent and doesn't care. And Luke Cage always brought that element to him, and in return, he brought him more fighting techniques so that he could control his rage and he could control his inhumanity or his isolation. And that's why they played so well off of each other. But a lot of people don't get that, and that didn't play off quite as well in the Netflix series as Marvel should have done it. I think it would have made a lot better compassionate audience for the character, because they made Danny Rand look like a jerk in that show. And, you know, he wasn't. He was very tactical and very mission driven, which they got, but they skipped out on the humanity part of it and made him into a knucklehead, you know, where he was all about the mission and lost his humanity in the carve of, you know, of what was that turkey. So it was a bad deal. Now I'm putting some minions here in the background. Now that I've cut all this in, I've put some minions in the background here. And these are the guys that they're facing off towards, because I don't want them to, you know, I always hate it when they put in these really strange looking guys. You know, they'll put in these superhero poses and then they'll just put in these strange guys around them without any poses or anything. They'll just be standing there. And, you know, you got to, if you're going to make them, if you're going to make these guys set off, you got to have a real threat. Otherwise, it's pointless. So, you know, give them an objective as to what they're striking out for, and give them ground as to what they're going for and why they're ticked off. I mean, tell the story in the pose. And so many people don't tell stories in these panels either. They just draw them. You know, they just make like these really cool action poses and they never tell the story for them. I always like to create the story as I go along, because one, when I'm doing these sketch cards, it always makes me feel better, because I did the job with working on the storytelling aspect for my own personal growth. And then secondly, there's always the thing of, you know, you should push your artistic ability every chance you get, no matter what. So on this guy right here, I'm going to put in some chain here, kind of hanging down a little bit. And then I'm going to slide that off into a shadow. So I think we've got that going on. A couple of guys back here. If you hear me crunching on my throat chop, I apologize. Just always keeping the old vocal cords ready to go. So, especially today, because I am doing a ton of recording work. And normally I wouldn't go right up to the character like this, but in this case I'm gonna, because of the fact that I want to have all that. I want to make these guys pop out in front, and then these little guys in the back. So that's how we're going to define that. That's a comic book trick, by the way. If you outline everybody, then it puts everybody on the same plane, okay? But if you outline just your background like this, that element like this, let me turn it back around so you guys can see it proper. If you see how I shaded right up against Luke there, and let those guys like that, see how they're in the background now? That puts them on a separate plane, right? Puts some distance between them. That's just an optical illusion that you can use to make that happen. A lot of people don't do that. They go in and they put in they'll put in the slight light ridges around here and the slight light ridges around Luke, and they go over here and put it around them as well. But you don't want to do that when you're trying to show dimension. Now, if it was just these guys on the card, I would definitely do that to make them pop up from the card, because then it adds that false dimension back there as well. That's why people do that when they draw comics. If you go really heavy with a black background and a solid, That's really, really cool to do that, because then it's got a technical bearing on it. But when you have a character in the foreground like this, you want to show them in between the shadow, in front of the shadow. So it looks like the lighting that's going around is going around and behind and in between. So it looks like it's over them and behind him. And that's the way you want it. It'll really make it pop off that way. Because when I show this in just a second, when it's done, it'll be exactly what I'm talking about. It divides that plane. So you have him in front. So you have Danny Rand in front. You have Iron Fist in front. You have Luke Cage, aka Power Man, in the middle. And then you have these guys in the background. And see, by that shadow right there, that also tells that, he's in front of Luke. He's in front of the gang. The gang's in front of the shadow in the back. That's how you separate them. So it adds a stacked layer of depth that way without having to divide everybody. So you get that look where it looks like it's just going to pop off, and that's what you want. So I'm going to kind of shadow in this green here, really rough, but nonetheless, there we go. Just kind of shadowing this up a little bit to make it stand out. And even though his fist glows, understand on the Iron Fist, it doesn't glow outward. Okay? You're not going to see it unless it's dark, because this is an inner glow. It glows inward, not out. It doesn't light up and fan out like, like a light. It glows from within. So that's a lot of the misconception about the Iron Fist as well, because of the fact that it would glow outward. Oh, it's going to glow like a lantern. Oh, it's yellow lantern. Yay. No, it's not. No, it's the Iron Fist concept would be his chi force, so that would be from within. That would be the power from within, because that's life force. And I'm really in tune with that, actually, because of my martial arts interest and things like that. And I really dig that personal balance. Does my fist light up? No. Do I find it interesting and understand the flow of energy? Absolutely. Very cool stuff. Very ancient philosophy. So, I also read this morning that Jason David Frank, the Green Power Ranger, the green or white Power Ranger from the original series, got his new black belt ranking. I thought I'd seen that before, but apparently I was mistaken on it. I thought I'd seen it, but I saw it again reported this morning. Of course, the internet reports stuff differently. You never know if it's going to pop back up on you, and you see something months down the line that you thought you saw before. So you got to take it with a grain of salt, but looks like he got his 8th degree black belt in karate. That's pretty intense, man. It takes a long time to get to those levels, and if he did, cool. If not, then boo to the people putting on fake news. which I'm not a fake news ranter at all. You know, if it's real, it's real. If it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, then that's okay too, because I don't have time to really pay attention to it. And the last thing I want to do is spend a day of my life ranting and raving about whether it's fact or fiction. I've got things that I really work on that I'm out to help people with. So that drama gets set to the wayside. However, I will say this, with everything going on, start your New Year's resolution now. You know, we're 5-6 days into this now, into December. Start getting that stuff out there. Start building out your New Year's resolution now, instead of messing around with everything else going on, and wait until after the first of the year starts, when you don't have the opportunity to get it going because the year's already started. I've always found that fascinating, because people go off and say, I want to make sure I didn't bin that. People go off and say, well, you know, I wish I would have started my New Year's resolution this year. Well, why aren't you preparing for it, or already have it to where you can hit the ground running? If it's a New Year's resolution, don't get into the new year to decide what you're going to do. And don't decide, you know, on the day of, on New Year's Eve, what's your New Year's resolution? Well, I'm loaded on wine. I have no idea. Well, don't do that. That's not the opportune time to think about that. If you seriously want to make a New Year's resolution for yourself and you want to be productive and make it happen, let me tell you, start today, right now. Don't wait for the year to end. Come in and say, okay, this is where I'm going to start right at this very moment, and this is what I'm going to start doing, and this is my New Year's resolution. I'm going to start the year off already in production. Excuse my sniffles here from my allergies. To get and to gain everything that I want in the new year by hitting the ground running with it already being underway. That's the way to start off. If you want to start a new business this year, start it now. That way you have it going by the time the year starts. When January rolls around, you should already be ready and set and rocking and rolling, man. I mean, if you're holding off on that and you haven't done it yet, you're looking at it from the hindsight perspective, and you're way out there yet before getting it done. And people don't stop to realize that, you know, if you're going to start a business in 2018, you should already have it functioning. You should have your license, your site, your products, your everything, or your blog, all of it already loaded up and ready to rock and roll. That way, whenever the new year rolls around, you're going, hey, what's your New Year's resolution? Oh, I don't know. I'm thinking about da-da-da-da-da. Oh, really? Okay, cool. Well, while you're thinking about that, buy my stuff. So that's the way it should be, and people don't do it that way. And I guarantee you that I'm already there, man. You guys should start looking into that, you know, seriously, and start thinking about that, because nobody thinks about it. I'm not kidding here. Nobody thinks about it. Everybody's like, well, I'm going to start, you know, this new year, I'm going to start working out on January 1. Why not start working out now? That way you're used to it by January 1, and you actually continue into the program because you're already started. You know, start 20 days out, start 30 days out. That way when you get into the program and you hit January 1, you're already on day 30. That's the way to do it, because then you don't hit that hump mark of the first 10 days or 15 days or 20 days. You already jumped over those hurdles, and you're on it to where it's gone from building into progression into a full habit by that point. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Do that with your artwork. Do that with your writing. Do that with your comics. Do that with your business. Do that with your health. Do it all that way. And I guarantee you, you'll change your direction. Cause and effect. You know, the effect is what you want. Here's the best way to get rid of goal problems. I'll solve it for you real quick. Here's the best way to get rid of goal problems. It's called cause and effect. If you make what you desire as the result outcome, the effect, and then reverse engineer it with what you have to do to get that to happen as the cause by asking, this is the effect. What do I have to cause to make that happen? You'll write your own steps, because the biggest thing is the number one question and the biggest problem and holdup is people go, I don't have a plan to do it. I don't know how to make it happen. How do I do it? What do I do? This is how you do it. You pick your effect, your goal, and then you retrograde it and say, how do I cause that to happen? Because you're the only one that can make it happen that way, okay? You're the only one that can make it happen, period. Hands down, no questions asked. You're the only one that can make it happen if you want it to happen. Otherwise, it's not going to. I mean, if it's your business, if it's your comic, if it's your story, if it's your site, if it's your promo, if it's your con, what are you going to do? If it's your exercise program, how are you going to make that happen? If you can't do it, then who is? Because it's your body, it's your function, it's your brain, it's your plan, it's your idea. Think about that. So many people just tell me all the time, they ask me all the time, how do I get started? That's the number one question I get. It's, what do you want to do? Well, I want to do this. I want to start a bakery, or I want to start a comic book, or I want to start a book, or I want to write a novel. Well, how do you make a novel happen? How do you make a comic happen? Well, you have to write it. You have to draw it. There you go. Cause and effect. Well, I want a cup of coffee. Well, how do you get a cup of coffee? You go make it. You go brew the coffee. Or you go to the coffee shop and pick some up. Well, I don't know how to make coffee. Read the directions. It's on the coffee can. Or go down to Starbucks and get you one. You go down, you drive up, you order it. Yay! Everybody wins. So, I hear people whine about stuff like that all the time, and it's just like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to start. Find out what you want to do, and then make a list of what you have to do that. And you will accomplish it in a heartbeat. If you want a cup of coffee, for example, go get a cup of coffee. It's that simple. It's that easy. It really is. So if you want to make a comic book, draw the comic book. If you don't have the story to draw the comic, well, I don't have a story. Then write a story. Go get a writer. It's that simple. It really is that easy. I do it every day. I want to write a comic today. Okay. What character do you want to write? There it is. Okay, cool. Boom. Case and example right here. I had to draw the card. I wanted a scenario. I wrote that scenario in my head. I just went, boom. Iron Fist, Power Man. I want to stick them in a bad situation to get a great card pose. What do I need? Some thugs in the background. They're trapped. They're circled. They're enclosed. Boom. You got it. There you go. Yay. Everybody wins. So, I mean, I know this is a crude version of it, but seriously, that's exactly how it works. You just go off and do it. You say what you want to do as the effect, the desired effect, and then figure out how to cause it. And if you're causing it, if your list of actions cause that to happen, then, you made it. If you don't, then one, you're not acting. And two, you don't really want it. You got to show how bad you want something by going to get it. And by going to get it, nobody ever says this, but by going and getting it, that means causing the actions to deserve the effect. Plain and simple. Hope that works out for you. I hope you enjoyed the card. Hope you guys dig it. I am going to get out of here so I can get some more artwork done and some more stuff posted. As always, take care, hug, smile, tickle, waggle, whatever. Do your thing to make somebody else feel like this place is a better place than when they found it. Thanks. Take care.